Good morning, everybody. All right, today on the secular Israeli calendar, they call Yom hazikaron. It's their Memorial Day. Now, I'm an American. When I think about Memorial Day and I think about the greatness of America and the sacrifice that American soldiers have done to do something that was unique and progressive. I don't mean progressive in the left-wing progressive sense, because really left-wing progressivism is really regressive. But I mean really bringing the world to a much greater stance. That's what America is all about. And then we find this movement, the Zionist movement, that's just the opposite. Again, a regressive, self-proclaimed progressivism that has brought pain and suffering to the world. And so today, the Zionists remember their own victims. You know, the Satmar Rebbe's suicidal in the Vayel Moshe, he uses the following parable. It's a well-known parable that many people use. But let's say there was an arsonist who was nice enough to wake up his victims, right? So now he looks like a hero, because look at me, I saved these people from this fire. When really he's the one who started the fire. That part he's covering up, that he started the fire. They said, look at me, I'm such a hero, I saved these people. That's what Zionism is. They're claiming that they're these big heroes who are saving Jews, when really they're the ones who are causing people to hate us. And this was from the very beginning of the Zionist movement. A lot of people say, well, look, in 1929, there was the pogroms in Hebron. Listen to Baruch Kaplan from Beis Yankov, what he said about that. He was there in Hebron. He saw what was going on. That they lived in peace with the Arabs for centuries. Now's Ramadan. During Ramadan, the Jews would babysit the Arab kids, and on Yom Kippur, the Arabs would babysit the Jewish kids. They lived in peace. But then what happened? Zionists, why? Because if we live as religious people with a religious outlook in the world, we believe in one God, as both religious Jews and religious Muslims believe, we can live in peace. It's the secularism, both on the Israeli side and the Palestinian side, for that matter. The Palestinians aren't saints either. Palestinian nationalism is the same type of Marxist nationalism as Zionism is. I'm not pro-Palestinian here. The whole idea of Palestinians is nonsense. These were people who came, most of them, either from Egypt or from Jordan or from other surrounding countries, for the purpose of working for the Zionists, because the Zionists were too lazy to do their own work, so they hired the Arabs to do the work for them that they didn't want to do. Even though the Zionists made this whole propaganda, avodah, they're working the land and this and that, but they didn't really want to do that. So they brought in Arabs from other countries, and now these people say, oh, we've been here for centuries. Yes, there were Arabs who lived there, but there was never an idea of a Palestinian nation and Palestinian nationalism. The Bible tells us in the book of Deuteronomy, chapter 32, we call Parshas Hazino, the Song of Moses. You angered me below Eloach. What does that mean with the no God? Meaning with atheism. So I will punish you below Am, with a non-nation. Meaning the Mida Keneged Mida, the tit for tat, the measure for measure for the sin of atheism and nationalism is that someone else will do the same trick that you did. Meaning the Zionists say, "Anachnu lo Yudim, anachnu Yisraelim." We're not Jews, we're Israelis. You hear this a lot. So then the same thing. The Palestinians, they're not Muslims, they're not Arabs, they're Palestinians. Palestine, whatever they call themselves, because they're not. They made it up, just like the Zionists made up the Israeli identity. So the Palestinians made up the Palestinian identity. They're two sides of the same coin. But what I'm concerned about is here now they're mourning all of the Jews who were killed in the wars and terrorism. Who started the wars? Who instigated the terrorism? The Zionists. They are their own suicide attackers, essentially. Zionism is a suicidal pursuit because it's put Jews into more danger. And this has been the design since the 1890s. Herzl was not really the founder of Zionism. A lot of people believe he was. He was the big spokesperson. The founder of Zionism actually later became a Baal Tshuva and was the biggest anti-Zionist, was Nathan Birnbaum, was the actual founder of Zionism. But they want to cover that up because he woke up and repented of his sins. And so too, many other people could do the same thing. And he became one of the most vocal anti-Zionists, religious anti-Zionists. He wasn't a Samer Chassid, he wasn't even Hasidish. He had a little bit of Chassidish influence, a little bit of a Yekisha influence. He was a brilliant person and did tremendous things and had a brilliant vision for how the Orthodox Jewish community should operate and become a force in the world. He was one of the early powerful Balei Tshuva, was Nathan Birnbaum. And people forget about him. And he was actually the founder of Zionism. But Herzl, they made him because he stuck to it, even though he was a Meshumid, he was an apostate. He didn't even give his children a bris milah. I have nothing against Christianity, but or Christians, but he was claiming to be, this savior of the Jewish people, and yet it's similar to how Marx's father had a phony Christianity. Meaning Karl Marx, his father, converted to Christianity for financial purposes, and it wasn't out of any kind of theological theological transformation, but rather for financial gain. Again, this is not a knock on Christianity. This is a knock on this type of secularism that uses religion and abuses religion for personal and selfish gain. And it was that type of approach to life, that materialistic approach to life, that abused religion, that created a Karl Marx, that brought the most suffering to the world that's ever been in human history. The most murders, the most death, all the various socialist movements, doesn't matter whether it's communist socialism or national socialism, they're all Marxist. Zionism, all of these movements, they're all coming from Marx. And a lot of this really comes essentially from Shabtai Tzvi Yimach Shemo and from Jacob Frank Yimach Shemo and these other cults that destroyed and ravaged the Jewish world and the world in general. That's where most of these secular movements come from. in the world, these left-wing movements. And so Herzl, though, Theodor Herzl, he writes in his journal that the job of the Zionist is to increase anti-Semitism in the world, because this will encourage the Jew to become a Zionist. And so that's what, when, like I mentioned, Rabbi Baruch Kaplan, he said his rabbis in the Hebron Yeshiva, when the Zionists came, he told them, get out of here. What are you doing here? They said, the Zionists said, we're here to protect you from the Arabs. They said, we've been living in peace with the Arabs for centuries. You're going to stir up the pot, and they're going to kill us because they won't know the difference between you and us. And rumors were going around that they were going to attack the Dome of the Rock or something, and so the people, so innocent Jews were murdered, religious Jews were murdered, who had lived in peace with the Arabs because the Zionists stirred up the pot, instigated the pogroms that took place in Hebron in 1929. So, and who were these early Zionists? Look what they did to Professor Dahan, another great Baal Tshuva, person who really turned his whole life around. From, again, just like Birnbaum, from the depths of the Klippas, from the depths of Tumah, and that he was lifted up to become, a right-hand man to the Shleimer Rav, to Rabbi Yosef Chaim Sonnenfeld. And again, what are we dealing with here? What do we got here? They murdered him in cold blood, assassinated this man who was working to bring peace and make peace with the Arabs. And the Zionists murdered him because that's not what they wanted. But why did they want this? What was this all about? Remember, we talked about the Sabbateans and the Frankists and these other cults that want to destroy Judaism and really destroy the whole world and bring suffering, and that's where all of these left-wing movements came from. Look at what's going on in the Holy Land. Meaning, as soon as the Zionists have the power, they want to destroy the yeshivas. Now, I'm not talking about religious Zionists. They call themselves Zionists. They're nachschleppers. They're not the real bad Zionists. They're just, emotional and patriotic about Eretz Yisrael, and they are misled. But they should take some time to maybe listen to some of their rabbis. Meaning, you remember Rabbi Soloveitchik, Zichron Livracha, was an Ehrlich Yid, a Talmud Chacham, a Tzaddik, a Voile Yid, and he was from the leaders of the Mizrahi movement, what they call Religious Zionists. He said, I heard this from Brother Ruv, he said he heard on the tape in Yiddish from Rabbi Soloveitchik, Zichron Livracha. He said, this has nothing to do with Mashiach. This is not das Chalte de Gula, it's not das Chalte. Whatever support he has with Eretz Yisrael and this and that, it's patriotism and it's emotional. It's not about das hat gar nicht mit Mashiach. He said this has nothing to do with Messiah. This is nothing eschatological. It's just, all right, he has this emotional attachment to Eretz Yisrael, and that's fine. That's a different story. The same thing Rabbi Cook also. He was mentally ill, but he was a brilliant person, brilliant genius. Suffered from tremendous mental illness. Wasn't his fault. He shouldn't be blamed for, he admitted himself. He told the Ger Rebbe how he struggled with a kind of a bipolar disorder, and I can commiserate with with him and with, what he's going through, what he went through. But he was a brilliant genius and a very poetic soul, as many of the tzaddikim said about him. And I would say he was a tzaddik. It was not his fault, but he said some crazy things, and he admitted that he regretted that. He told the Ger Rebbe he regretted that, And again, he wanted to make peace with the Arabs. He wanted to make peace with other religions. He wasn't a militant Zionist. The truth is, even Meir Kahana really wanted to make peace with the Arabs in a certain sense. Meir Kahana said that the Arabs could live in Eretz Yisrael if they keep Sheva Mitzvahs B'nai Noach. He didn't say that they have to give up Islam. They could pray 5 times a day and eat halal food and read the Quran. He didn't have an issue with Islam. He didn't have an issue with Arabs. He said, I don't hate Arabs. I love Jews, and I wish the Arabs well. That was what Meir Kahana always said. Many, many recordings of that, but people ignore that. They say, oh, he was a racist. Why? Again, because the secular Zionists said they wanted to kill him like they killed Dahan, and he knew that. He compared himself often to Dahan. One of my friends said, he was sitting with Meir Kahana talking about this. He said, you know what they did to Dahan? He said, I know. Meir Kahana never thought the Arabs would kill him. He thought the Zionists would kill him. And I suspect the same, and with his son Reb Binyamin, the same thing. I remember meeting Reb Binyamin, a Voidel Yid, a Edel, a Voidel Yid, and they killed him. I don't think the Arabs killed him. I think the Zionists killed him. Again, and I disagree with Meir Kahana's ideology about certain things, because it's not an authentic approach. But at least he was a big mammon. He was a person who believed in God very strongly, believed in Torah. He was very strong in most of his hashkafas. It's just when it came to Zionism, he had a different view. But he admitted that the anti-Zionist view is also kosher. He went to YU and told the Bachrim that in YU. He said, don't say, it's Satmar. He said, learn the Vayol Moshe. Meir Kahana said this. So, again, it's an emotional type of Zionism, which I experienced when I was younger. When I first heard about the anti-Zionism, I was upset about it and shocked by it, and it offended me. And then I learned more about it, and I realized, this would probably work a lot better. Meaning what? Meaning what could we do to put an end to all this suffering? 25,000 Jews have been killed since 1948 because of Zionism. That they're mourning today at Yom HaZikaron, that the Israeli government, hypocritically, they're having everybody stand still, a moment of silence, when the blood is on their own hands. So what's the answer? The answer, in my opinion, it's going to sound strange, because you're going to say, well, this is especially because so many left-wing people call themselves anti-Zionists, who are really Zionists, and worse than Zionists, the secular so-called anti-Zionists, who are, like I said, they're worse than the Zionists in many ways. But the answer is annexation. I mean, like I said from the beginning, the American Memorial Day is because why am I excited about America? And I'll tell you, to me as an American, the only patriotism that I understand is American patriotism. Because America is an idea. It's not just a piece of land. And this is why I was so upset when Obama changed the name of Mount McKinley. Not any disrespect. I don't mean this as a disrespect to the indigenous people of this country. but rather I recognize that this country is special because of our constitution. Israel doesn't have a constitution. If they did, it would be a garbage one. Unless it's the Torah, they shouldn't have it. And if it's the Torah, it's going to say, don't have a state until Mashiach's here. So, but if there was an American-style constitution, particularly freedom of religion, that the separation, the wall of separation between church and state that Jefferson talked about, is not what the left wants us to believe, that religion should have no place in public policy, which is the opposite. That the government has no place in religious policy. And yet in Israel, what do you have? You have the Rabbanut, you have the chief rabbinate, which is their government puppets. That's not what we need. That's regressive. That's back to the old European model. It's not what we need. But we also don't need, like in France, or like it was for a long time in Turkey, and what really a lot of Israelis want is this radical secularism, which is also a violation of the wall of separation between church and state. To have a totally secular government that's really anti-religious in a certain sense, but rather the American model of federalism. That is what that's what it's one of also the great aspects of America, but also that's what would save Israel. Meaning, if the Israelis would have annexed the land that they won in the wars and made one state with federalism, meaning you have a federal government with individual states, federal government to protect, a very loose federal government to protect, unlimited federal government to protect the rights of the minorities, meaning both how in Israel, admittedly, the Arabs who live in Israel, who are Israeli citizens, live better than any other Arabs in the Middle East in every way. So they're doing good with that, the Israelis. Not only doing good, but doing well, both. But really doing good. And I know the difference between doing good and doing well. But also to protect the Jews who live in Arab majority neighborhoods and so forth. Meaning the fact that there is this movement against the annexation of where Jews live in Eretz Yisrael. Why? Because the Zionists, what was it all about when they made the disengagement from Gaza and so forth? That was Zionism. I mean, I know a lot of course, the religious Zionists were against it because the religious Zionists are not real Zionists. The religious Zionists are Chovevei Tzion, which again, a lot of the Gedolim had different views about this idea and so forth, but meaning they love Eretz Yisrael. That's a different thing. That's what they call themselves, religious Zionists, but they're not Zionists in that sense. But if they love Eretz Yisrael, and so a lot of those people living in Gush Katif, they would have stayed living there and become Palestinian citizens just to stay in Eretz Yisrael. The Zionists wouldn't let them do it. The Zionists kicked the Jews out of their homes in Eretz Yisrael because they cared more about maintaining an artificial, quote-unquote, Jewish state with a Jewish majority, rather than making an annexation and making a non-sectarian state where there would be more peace. Meaning, because what's the issues with the Palestinians? Their leadership is very corrupt and violent and murderous, and they are making these problems. The average Palestinian person just wants to live their life. But why do the Israelis do this? Because it's a tool by which they can get Jews away from Judaism. That's what it's all about. And the truth is, they're getting Muslims away from Islam. Meaning, the Israelis, they made in Jericho a casino. Now, in Judaism, we frown upon gambling, but it's not like a major sin. It's just something that makes it, if a person, that's their whole livelihood, they're what they call they're postulators. They cannot serve as a witness in a court of law. Okay, that's something else. It's frowned upon, but in Islam, it's a very major sin to gamble. And you see what goes on there. The Israelis made these casinos, or they influenced the Arabs, and the Arabs running casinos. And many other issues in the Arab lifestyle in the Holy Land, where they're seeing the youth are not following the good parts of Islam that don't hurt anybody else. I don't have a problem with Islam. I'll tell you, it's the same. Meaning, and so that's also part of the problem. Meaning, you have to respect freedom of religion, and also have a rule of law. Meaning, which is kind of what Mayor Kahana taught. Meaning, if they would annex the whole Eretz Yisrael, let the Arabs be Muslims. You don't have to force. You can welcome them if they want to convert to Judaism. You don't have to force them to convert, and you certainly don't have to make them these, Noahides. That meaning, that they believe in Judaism, but they didn't convert, and this and that. If you believe in Judaism and you can convert, you convert. If you can't convert, so then all right, you're stuck being a Noahide. But you should ideally convert. Why would you stay a Noahide when you could convert? I understand you live somewhere you can't convert and it's too difficult, this and that. And even then, all right, you could get a bezdin together, a bezdin of hedyotos, and you can make some kind of a gerus. Maybe the Rabbanut's not going to accept it. Maybe the RCA's not going to accept it, but it could be a kosher gerus. If you believe in Torah, this and that. But I mean Torah Sheb'Ksav and Torah Sheb'al Peh, of course. But I'm not saying you have to convert all the Arabs to Judaism. You can welcome them if they want to convert, and certainly not tell them, abandon Islam, forget about Muhammad, and just keep 7 laws of Noah. That's silly, and it's none of our business. Unless they want to, it's a different story. What is our business, though? They believe in one God, so they're good. They're already keeping the Sheva Mitzvahs B'nai Noach. The only thing is Shvichas Damim. The murder aspect, the terrorism, that has to be corrected, and so that's what we need, a rule of law to punish terrorists. That's really it. Meaning, if somebody's killing people, or someone's stealing, someone is violating the Sheva Mitzvahs B'nai Noach, so then we have to put our foot down and say that we can't accept. But you want to pray 5 times a day and read the Quran and fast during Ramadan because of the hate. What's that our business? I'm sure God is very happy with that devotion as well. I don't see any problem with that. If they're meaning well and their heart is there for God, what difference does it make? The issues that we have to be worried about is the murder issues. Don't kill, don't steal, don't the real Sheva Mitzvahs B'nai Noach issues. They're not eating Avram and Chai. They're not, So, they believe in one God, and the Rambam says, Libam l'shamayim. They believe really in the same God that we do, even though their ancestors were idolaters. We don't have to follow what Jack Chick wrote, that they're worshiping the moon God. They're not worshiping the moon God. That's silly. Allah is the same God as us, as our God. Even, Jews and Christians who speak Arabic call God Allah. It's not what... Yes, we have different views about the prophecies and this. All right, we disagree. We can agree to disagree. I'm strong enough in my own faith that I believe, God spoke to millions of people at Mount Sinai. That cannot be abrogated. And I believe, yes, I believe it's ridiculous that the Muslims say that we changed the Torah. That's nonsense. It doesn't mean that we have to hate each other. We can agree to disagree on these matters, because when Mashiach comes, then the world will see. I hope this guy is turning, or maybe I hope he's not turning. I don't know. So, and again, and that's what we're looking forward to. Is Malahar Deus Hashem K'mayim Li'am Mechasim. We're looking forward to Mashiach coming. We're not looking forward to just, Liot am Hofshi Bardsenu. We're looking forward to be a free people in our land, and even to be am Kodesh Bardsenu, to be a holy people in our land. Also, it's short-sighted. We're looking forward to world peace. We're looking forward to total transformation of this planet, as the Bible predicted and promised, that we're going to have a totally new world where everybody's going to worship one God. And that cannot be forced by anybody. The Satmar Rebbe brings from the Rambam that really this true sign that Mashiach has come will be when everybody's heart changes. Meaning we're not going to have to send missionaries to convince anybody that Mashiach's here. And all of the worries. A lot of Christians say that the Jewish Messiah is the Antichrist, and that's also not. And I'm not saying that there's not going to be an Antichrist, and I'm not saying that a lot of Jews won't be fooled by such an Antichrist. Even maybe some religious Jews could be fooled by such a thing. There could be or there couldn't be. It doesn't matter. But when the real Mashiach comes, every heart is going to be changed. Meaning, there could be an Antichrist, like Armalus Arosha. It's brought in the Midrashim about like an Antichrist figure. Meaning in Jewish traditions, talk about someone named Armalus Arosha, who's the Antichrist. This is a Jewish idea. It's not something that's not a fundamental Jewish idea, but it's there in the Jewish mythology. It's an idea that exists. It's not foreign to Judaism. That's the point. And in a certain sense, I believe that in a certain spirit, the Zionists are the Antichrist. And which I've spoken to evangelical Christians who see the state of Israel not as some great, wonderful aspect of a positive fulfillment of prophecy, but rather setting up the dominoes for the Antichrist, and then what they believe will be the second coming of their Messiah. And that's neither here nor there. That's a different subject. But meaning the point that I'm bringing out is that this isn't some gewaltige simcha, you know, but rather it's setting up for something really scary that's going to lead then after that to something very good in their viewpoint. And you know, and it's you know, and I'm you know, I recognize that they believe it's good, and you know, it doesn't matter who the Mashiach is. What matters is what is Mashiach going to do, and not only what Mashiach is going to do, what's God going to do when there's a King Mashiach. Meaning Mashiach's not really going to do anything. God is going to do something tremendous. Now the thing is, the question is, until that happens, could we reestablish a Commonwealth of Israel? And this is a difficult question, and many of my friends who hate the state of Israel still have a hope that it could work. I also have a hope that such a thing could work, but I'm realistic and recognize it couldn't work. The Jewish people is too fractured. We're too you know, there's too much machlokes. You could not have a unified Jewish people without this fundamental change in the heart, like we mentioned, that's what's going to be when Mashiach comes, is that the heart will change. And again, these types of fundamental transformations cannot be accomplished through government. They have to be accomplished through miracles. Now, I know people feel that that's a cop-out. But to be realistic, let's just say, let's work on ourselves right now. You know, like my friend who wanted to put on techelis, and he asked Rabbi Weinberger about it, and Rabbi Weinberger said, you know, you're not holding there yet. You have a lot of other things to work on first. When you know, meaning there were big tzaddikim who didn't wear techelis. He said, if you're a Radzin or Chassid, you wear techelis. You're a Breslov or Chassid, you wear techelis. You know, the Biala Rebbes, also some of them. And certain people, Yechidim, maybe should. I'm not saying yes or no. I'm not against wearing techelis. And many of my Rebbeim wear it. I personally don't. I would. I just don't. If someone would give me a talis with techelis mistama, I would wear it, at least privately, sometimes. But it's not. But it's short-sighted of what's really the point here. Meaning, we're in Golus, we're in exile, and we don't have all the mitzvahs. And again, that's what's going on now with the coronavirus. It's trying to teach us this lesson. Meaning people, they're so gung-ho about Yishuv Eretz Yisrael, they don't care that they killed 20,000 Jews because of their Yishuv Eretz Yisrael, their big frumkeit of Yishuv Eretz Yisrael. And the same thing now with the coronavirus. You can argue back and forth about this and that. The Metzias and Olam HaAsiyah and the world of action, where we're living now, is that the way we understand things could be right, could be wrong. That's not the issue, whether it's true or not true right now. But this is how we're being taught right now by our tzaddikim, by our gedolim. Don't make a minyan. Don't go to mikveh. Don't do this. Don't do that for now, because it will put Jewish lives in danger and other lives in danger, human lives in danger. It doesn't matter Jewish or not Jewish. But we see how many Jews have been killed by this virus, and maybe if we maintain the social distancing, it'll save some lives. And again, we can discuss the merits and demerits of the truth of this idea. But in any event, it is what it is. This is how we are. How we're living right now, and this is what our rabbis are telling us to do. And a lot of people are not listening to the rabbis. And whatever the truth is about the virus, we can only go by what the doctors are saying. That's how halacha works. It's if you have 3 doctors and 2 give an opinion, you follow that. Even if it doesn't work, then it's gezeres hamelach. You know, for now, until, things change. But we live in a material world, and we have to follow just, basic common sense and this and that. And so we do things the way we're supposed to do it. And when things change, we'll go. But the point is to teach us this lesson, that God is saying, I don't need all these sacrifices. I need your heart. I need you. What Isaiah was saying. Isaiah wasn't against people bringing sacrifices. He wasn't seeking to abolish our religion, but he was saying, he was giving musar, and that's what's going on here. It's the same sickness, and both Zionism and even people, they call themselves anti-Zionists. They call themselves Hasidim and Haredim, who insist on davening with a minyan. When what's the big deal? So you don't daven with a minyan for a few weeks. The thing that for me is more difficult is the mikveh, and all right, it's a little bit easier for me because I live somewhere where I can go jump in the lake. It's freezing cold and it's uncomfortable, but I don't go every day, but I try once a week, whether it's Erev Shabbos, Erev Yontif, something, to chaperai in a mikveh. But the truth is, I could do without that. Tisha Kavin, that's, if we have to, we have to. So I commiserate with you, just like I commiserate with the religious Zionists. I feel the emotional attachment to Eretz Yisrael and Yerushalayim, and I feel the emotional attachment to go davening with a minyan and going to the mikveh and doing all these things. But there's a time and a place for everything. And just the same, that this Zionism has killed so many Jews that they're commemorating today on Yom HaZikaron, somewhat hypocritically. It's the same issue here. It's with this minyanim and this and that. All right, I'm almost to work. Thank you for watching. God bless. Please like, share, and subscribe, comment, and we'll see you all later. Take care.